Part 5, Experience and Reason. In Rousseau and Romanticism, Babbitt gives considerable attention to the theory of knowledge. He criticizes both metaphysical and positivistic epistemologies for not being sufficiently attentive to concrete human experience. Instead of taking ideas on authority, modern man proposes to submit them to the test of experience. Babbitt is willing to accept this challenge and to adopt what he calls the positive and critical spirit of modernity, which makes it a lot of fun because he's dealing with the moderns on their own territory. Quote, everything in man is a matter of experience, unquote. But Babbitt also insists that what is typically meant by experience today is artificially narrow. Representatives of the modern epistemological project are, quote, incomplete positivists. They do not take account of the full range of human experience, but arbitrarily select fragments of it or distort it through reductionistic methodologies. Naturalistic, materialistic philosophies of various types impose abstract constructs on concrete experience. What a great line. Naturalistic, materialistic philosophies of various types impose abstract constructs on concrete experience. Actual human life over the centuries, as known in man's direct self-experience, provides plentiful evidence of the nature of man and society, including the existence of a universal moral order. And so now we know where Kurt got the idea of in his first of the 10 conservative principles of that the conservative is persuaded that there exists an enduring moral order. Babbitt uses a poorly chosen term, quote, a more complete positivism, unquote, to describe his own respect for experiential facts. He might appear to favor a more complete devotion to the gathering of empirical evidence in the ordinary modern sense, which is a misleading impression. The experience with reference to which Babbitt would judge the validity of ideas is not the sphere of external objects posited by positivism. He has in mind mankind's living consciousness of the whole, the human self-awareness that can be called the inner life, not because it is interior to something else, but because it has the intimacy of the directly experienced. Our most fundamental awareness of life is of the universal and the particular, in simultaneous tension and union, a fact of immediate experience to which Babbitt sometimes refers in Plato's language of the one and the many. The universal and the particular are, like in Plato's language, the one and the many. Mankind acquires a better understanding of the whole, not by accumulating data in the empirical sense, but by acquiring a firmer grasp of the oneness or the unity of life that abides in the midst of change and diversity. Man does so by orienting the personality to the ordering values of the good, the true, and the beautiful. He lays hold on the oneness of existence, not, as Plato recommends, by trying to escape or abolish change and diversity. These are of the essence of human life. Instead, man discovers universality in the ordering of the particularity. To the extent that mankind is successful in this effort, universality is embodied in concrete experience. As such, it becomes familiar to man. What has not entered human experience is not subject to human knowledge, various metaphysical claims notwithstanding. Questions about reality are best answered by those whose experience has been structured in the manner just described. The idea of having your personality, orienting your personality to the ordering values of the good, the true, and the beautiful. This structuring of life is the task of civilization. Through it, man is led beyond the merely ephemeral and the idiosyncratic. The truly civilized person is more authoritative about reality than others because he has let experience be ordered, deepened, enriched and interpreted by the sense of the universal that emerges from the human heritage of life and letters. The empirical data upon which positivists would base knowledge are reified and distorted fragments torn from the fundamental and continuous consciousness of the whole that Babbitt calls human experience. To submit claims about reality to the test of experience means to judge them ultimately from the point of view of life's completion in good action. For Babbitt, the final criterion of reality is the special type of willing whose very nature it is to satisfy man's deepest yearnings and to make life truly worth living. Babbitt suggests that the problem of epistemology, quote, though it cannot be solved abstractly and metaphysically, can be solved practically and in terms of actual conduct, unquote. What cannot be grasped in mere theory can be understood in concrete ethical experience. It should be interjected that Babbitt's theory of knowledge can be criticized for unduly discounting reason's contribution in the search for reality. When speaking of reason, he usually has in mind an analytical faculty which chops up immediate experience in pragmatically convenient parts. This faculty simplifies and even violates the facts of human consciousness in order to make rational sense of them. Babbitt often points to the inability of reason to grasp the paradox of the one and the many that constitutes man's fundamental self-awareness. He sees reason as imposing an abstract and ultimately artificial consistency on the experiential facts. To know reality, Babbitt contends, it is necessary to go beyond the formulations of reason. Like most thinkers in this century, Babbitt does not explicitly recognize a form of rationality that faithfully accounts for actual human experience. That such a reason exists has been persuasively shown in this country by neo-Hegelian Benedetto Croce. Simultaneously philosophical and historical, this reason is compatible with Babbitt's view of life, including his notion of the ultimacy of the practical criterion of reality. The weakness of Babbitt's understanding of reason is evident, for example, in the following sentence in which he indicates the futility of trying to capture the path of religious striving in rational formulations. He says, quote, "The end of this path and the goal of being cannot be formulated in terms of finite intellect any more than the ocean can be put into a cup." This statement appears to push intellectual humility to an extreme, but if reason is as powerless as Babbitt here seems to think it is, by means of what faculty is Babbitt expressing the shortcomings of the, quote, finite intellect? In many places, including his long essays on the Dhammapada, which he actually did translation of, which is very, very interesting. In his edition of that work, Babbitt does formulate the nature of the religious path and the goal of being. He must be relying on a type of reason that is philosophically more capable and comprehensive than the, quote, finite intellect mentioned in the quoted sentence above. The same reason must be active in his writings about other aspects of life. All of the arguments, concepts, definitions, and terms presented in his various books, the practical criteria of reality, the higher and lower will, the tension between the one and the many, etc., assume the existence of a reason capable of significant observation, a reason not suffering from the defects of pragmatic and analytical rationality. In his studies of human life and letters, Babbitt is clearly not confined to the kind of finite intellect that he explicitly acknowledges. Although he is not systematically conscious of it, he relies upon a more truly philosophical reason whenever he presents an idea that does not distort or violate actual experience, but simply expresses it in concepts. Babbitt's incomplete understanding of the role and meaning of reason does not undermine his idea that questions of reality should be submitted to the test of experience. In assessing theories of life, it is appropriate, he argues, to be guided by the words of Jesus. Quote, "By their fruits shall ye be shall ye know them. By their fruits shall ye know them. Unquote. Ethical and other ideas produce consequences that throw light on their meaning and tenability. Historical evidence, the experience of the human race, is indispensable. Thinkers who are hostile to all traditional authority and who will not seriously consult the insights common to the great ethical and religious systems of mankind are likely to foster superficial and dangerous ideas. As these ideas are put into practice, they bring upon their originators and others a sense of life's absurdity and misery. Those, on the other hand, who are willing to undertake some of the action called for by the older traditions, if not accept the literal meaning of inherited dogmas, are likely to produce very different fruits in themselves and in others, a deepening sense of meaning and happiness of life. Babbitt observes that if absolute knowledge must forever elude man, quote, we may still determine on experimental grounds to what degree any particular view of life is sanctioned or repudiated by the nature of things, and rated accordingly as moral